Bonnie chose to become an outlaw, angered by the devastating impact on her family by the Marshall Gang fallout. Join us for the hidden story of the Marshall Gang that led Bonnie to becoming an outlaw. Please like and subscribe, then relax and enjoy. This critically important part of Bonnie's history is completely absent from the book Fugitives, and as a result is little known. Now, here it is. Please pause as necessary to read the text. The main part is voiced, but can be muted if preferred. The Marshall Gang. College kid is in a jam. Boy sheriff of Dallas is involved in kidnapping and robberies. Schuyler B. Marshall, Jr., Dallas County Sheriff, 1924 to 1926, boss of the Marshall Gang, son of wealthy Texas landowner Schuyler B. Marshall, Sr. Marshall Gang members: Schuyler B. Marshall, Jr., boss, former Dallas County Sheriff. Herbert Scales, prominent Dallas clubman. J. Robert Kelly, the gang's tough standover man. Herbert Scales, prominent Dallas clubman, member of the Marshall Gang. Marshall Gang associates: Roy Thornton, estranged husband of Bonnie Parker. Bud Mace, Bonnie's sister Billy's brother-in-law. Fred Mace, Bonnie's sister Billy's husband. H.W. McBride, Raymond Hamilton's sister Lillian McBride's husband. Former Dallas Sheriff charged under big bond. Former Dallas County Sheriff Schuyler Marshall, Jr. and Herbert Scales, prominent Dallas clubman, were arrested last weekend, along with three others less prominent, Roy Thornton, Bud Mace, and Fred Mace, in connection with the robbery of the Ferris Bank. Pause to read further. Bud Mace and Roy Thornton were grilled for 2 days at the Dallas County Jail. Bud Mace and Roy Thornton, sent to Fort Worth today, had undergone grueling questioning in the jail here for 2 days. Both were charged at Fort Worth, along with Marshall and Scales. Others taken to the Dallas County Jail for questioning: Evelyn Mace, wife of Bud Mace. Tom P. Zachary, operator of the Dallas rooming house at which Roy Thornton was living. Also taken to the Dallas County Jail for questioning: Bonnie Parker, married name Bonnie Thornton, estranged wife of Roy Thornton. Billy Mace, wife of Fred Mace and sister of Bonnie Parker. Hubert Parker, brother of Bonnie Parker and Billy Mace. Yes, the estranged wife of one of the men charged is Bonnie Parker herself. Her married name was Bonnie Thornton, and she is the estranged wife of Roy Thornton. 2 women, one of them the estranged wife of one of the men charged, and another man, were released last night. 2 additional prisoners held for questioning. At this time, the Parker and Mace families were on the up and up. Billy Mace, Bonnie Parker's sister, had just given birth to daughter Mitzi, Fred Mace and Billy's second child, while Evelyn Mace, wife of Bud Mace, had also given birth a few months prior. Also, sadly, the mother of Bud and Fred, Catherine Lucinda Hamilton Mace, had died a few months prior. Bud Mace had started a trucking business. Roy Thornton, Bonnie Parker's estranged husband, although estranged from the Parker family, was still hanging around with his Mace buddies. Together, they were associating with the Marshall Gang, operated by former Dallas County Sheriff Schuyler Marshall, Jr. All looked rosy. Then someone ratted on an upcoming job, and bust. The Parker family suddenly left with no income from Fred Mace, and Billy with a newborn baby and a toddler now to support, responsibility now falling on her widowed mother Emma Parker, who had not long ago been the sole breadwinner supporting her 3 children, Bonnie, Billy and Hubert. Emma's feelings of social injustice were rooted in her personal experience of a woman's unfair lot. Thus, after a short period of hope for a pleasant future, the Parker family misfortune was repeating itself 17 years later, this time with Emma Parker in place of Emma's parents Frank and Mary Krause, back in 1915 after Emma was unexpectedly widowed, and Billy now in place of her mother Emma. It was crushingly heartbreaking to be thrown back into weary struggle all over again. The accomplices testified before the Alice County Grand Jury at the beginning of December 1931 in exchange for promises of immunity from prosecution. The case was then set for trial in the Waxahachie District Court beginning on February 8, 1932. The Parker family household was fortunate to include Emma's oldest sister, Lily Smith, who had a stable job along with Emma, but Billy was not working, having to stay home to look after her children, while Hubert, with his wife Edith, and also Bonnie Parker herself, were all not earning much. All could be counted on to pitch in to help Billy and Emma, but money was tight. A few houses away from the Parker household, Bud and Fred's widowed father, Tillman Lafayette Mace, was having his issues. Both Bud and Fred in jail, looking after Bud's wife Evelyn and her baby who were living with him. Dealing with Bud's trucking company, Billy would take Mitzi and Buddy, the grandchildren, over to the Mace household often. It was into the midst of this active shit show that a prison-traumatized Clyde Barrow unsuspectingly limped into after his release from the Huntsville Penitentiary on February 2, 1932. Paying an unexpected surprise visit to Bonnie to see if she meant her promise that she would wait for him. Wow! He found a severely pissed-off Bonnie, over-eager to see him, furious at the impact on her family of the Marshall gang fallout. Nervously waiting for the pending court case where all the witnesses against Schuyler Marshall Jr. would be so badly threatened to prevent them giving evidence that they all had mass amnesia and could not remember their original grand jury testimony, so that the court would unfairly and egregiously convict them of perjury while knowing they had been threatened and could not testify. The trial court would then engineer an instructed verdict acquitting Schuyler Marshall Jr., but proceed to convict the Marshall gang's accomplices on their grand jury testimony, denying them the immunity from prosecution that they had been promised in exchange for their grand jury testimony. They felt played, ratted, lured with the promise of immunity, threatened into perjury, then convicted. Thus Bonnie, who had initially intended to try to draw Clyde into her world, and possibly the world of the Marshall gang, with the gang's strong Dallas underworld connections, now had that world unexpectedly crash. So a fury ignited in Bonnie. With no world to bring Clyde into, Bonnie decided to now throw herself fully into Clyde's world instead, come what may, as Suicide Sal. Now let's follow the newspaper reporting of the Marshall gang case. Pause to read.